cannot believe we are at the end of 3D Experience World 2021 already. 4 fantastic days that were just as jam-packed and exciting as any other year. Today's theme was Connections to Relationships. And speaking as your host for the past 5 years, I think that could have been the theme for the entire event. I've always loved seeing the way people in Solidworks community greet each other like long-lost family members. And it was amazing that we still found a way to do it, even at a distance. This year has taught us that connections make us strong, and the relationships we've built and nurtured make us stronger. Speaking of strong, wow. What did you think about the conclusion to work from home alone? Did you enjoy that? Any good make-believe story usually has a little bit of truth to it. You've all encountered difficulties in storing, sharing, and collaborating on design data, lack of access to IT, not having the right tools for the job. Those are the real CAD bandits. Kevin showed us how 3D Experience Works portfolio and some exciting new features in SolidWorks 2022 can help us tackle our challenges as we work from home alone. In today's general session, we learned about the many ways the designers and engineers that make up our audience interact with the software. Suchit Jain shared some wonderful news. SolidWorks is still everywhere. More than 6 million designers, engineers, students, makers, and innovators are designing and creating many of the things we see around us. And many of those users rose to the occasion during the COVID pandemic to retool factories to manufacture medical supplies or create better designs to rapidly 3D print PPEs. It is truly inspiring. Matt Carney and Tej Mattel were 2 of those customers who shared their stories. Matt leveraged the 3D Experience platform to connect hundreds of engineers to iterate and develop open source face masks that anyone can help improve. Tej addressed the need for better information sharing with all the various tests that are used to detect COVID. It is always great to see our Director of Education and Early Engagement, Marie Blanchard, on the stage. Today, she spoke with 2 well-known SolidWorks engineers who took different paths on their engineering journeys. And they both continue to pay it forward to the workforce of the future in different ways. Eric Beatty teaches other users as a user group leader and through SWUGN, the world's largest SolidWorks user group meeting. When he's not at his day job, Paul Ventimiglia is a fixture on the BattleBots TV show and mentors Cheesy Poof's first robotics team. It was fun to end general session with the panel from Nolan, Brent, and Ellis Bushnell and Grant Delgatti. I loved hearing the story of how Atari came to be and how Brent expanded on those lessons to develop 2-Bit Circus. How many of you spent hours as a kid trying to beat your high score in Asteroids? Well, Brent also talked about how he had to deliver different experiences during the pandemic than the ones we learned about a couple of years ago. All 3 talked about the need for failure as a part of the innovation process. But don't forget you can watch the replay by going to the Agenda tab above in the virtual event platform. Once again, we have made it available for our attendees in Asia Pacific. I hope you took advantage of the meetups to connect with old friends and meet new ones. You can watch the replays of the meetups, but you won't be able to participate. I would recommend the chats with product definition and portfolio management team where attendees had questions answered about both SolidWorks Desktop and the 3D Experience Works portfolio. Also be sure to check out the session with Jim Capobianco and his new stop-motion movie, The Inventor. Sharing your models of Leonardo da Vinci's designs could help the animators better understand how the mechanisms move and help turn Leo's ideas into reality. I hope you all had a chance to brush up on your skills at the technical sessions. With 137 sessions, there was definitely something for everyone. Designers and engineers, simulation analysts, and manufacturers using DelmiaWorks, ERP and MES, or CNC and CAM. All of this year's technical sessions will still be available for the next month or so through this virtual event platform. Speaking of skills, I hope everyone had a chance to test theirs in Model Mania this year. There were 3 different competitions. You could rise to the challenge using SolidWorks Desktop, or you could model with 3D Creator and 3D Sculptor for users and resellers. And we had a 3D Experience Platform Challenge just for students. Let's go to Mark Schneider to see how it went.
Hi, Tracy, you're right. This year we had 3 Model Mania challenges. In the 3D Experience Challenge, participants got to use the 3D Creator and 3D Sculptor roles to show off their design skills by creating components of a new custom motorcycle. Using the 3D Experience platform, contestants chose to model everything from the wheels, fuel tank, headlight, handlebars, and many other parts, and add them to their own motorcycle and then publish their designs to the 3D Experience World 3D Swim community. Contestants with the most likes in the community were the winners. The 3D Experience Student Challenge gave students the opportunity to use the 3D Designer for Education role to record a video of themselves speedrunning one of the previous year's Model Mania parts and sharing it to the student 3D Swim community. The participants were judged on both speed and accuracy. Both of these challenges leverage the 3D Experience platform to model parts, and well, the 3D Experience platform is a perfect fit for a virtual event like this year because the software runs in the cloud, the models are stored in the cloud, and the entries are made in the cloud. But the Solidworks Challenge is different. For those of you who are not familiar with the Model Mania Solidworks Challenge, it's a contest that's been held at World for the last 21 years, and here are the models from previous years. Contestants sit down in a private booth with a computer running SOLIDWORKS and are given a part drawing that they haven't seen before, and they're asked to model the part, make changes to that part, and run a simulation. The models are gathered from the machines and graded on accuracy first, then on speed. Obviously, we couldn't do that in the virtual environment, so we had to evolve and expand. This year, that private booth is each contestant's own chair, using their own computer and their own seat of SOLIDWORKS software. And to keep things fair, everyone saw the Model Mania 2021 drawing at the same time. The timer started when the drawing was displayed, and when the contestants submitted their model, the timer stopped. Just as in the past, parts are judged on accuracy first, then on speed. This year, the SOLIDWORKS Challenge had one modeling phase. Just model the part, run a simulation, and submit the part online. Earlier today, we ran through the solution for the SOLIDWORKS Challenge, reviewed some of the 3D Experience Challenge creations, and announced the winners of all the Model Mania challenges. And without further ado, here they are, all 17 of our Model Mania champions. Congratulations to the winners and all the participants, and be sure to watch the replay of the Model Mania winners presentation to see the full solution and the announcement of the winners. Back to you, Tracy, for more about the 3D Experience Playground.
One of the parts of the playground we didn't really talk about yet is the 3D Experience Lab. There are over 20 videos showcasing how our program and the associated labs around the world honor their commitment to empowering makers and innovators globally. I learned about all kinds of collaboration with real-world impacts like the LN4 that was part of the 3D Experience for Good hackathon last year. I also discovered interesting new ways of fabricating with new materials. The solid knitting machine from Japan was really innovative, and maybe another way to redesign the furniture in my apartment. The Deep Live imaging machine, which helps detect skin cancer, is an important project and just one example of the many startups the lab is helping to accelerate. There are also some great stories from the various Fab Labs around the world and the Fab Lab Academy, an intense and rewarding program that teaches everything you need to know about digital fabrication and helps makers realize their ideas and share their knowledge with their communities. There's another key aspect to the playground, the Dassault Systems booth. This year, it told the story of Square Robot and how 3D Experience Works scales with their growing business. This was just one of the several stories this week that helped to illustrate the many ways users could connect to the platform to make them more flexible and agile, and to connect with their ecosystem to foster better collaboration. And here is the event by the numbers. There are 5 product domains in 3D Experience Works portfolio. 17 hardware and software partners, 20 feature speakers and general sessions, 40 meetups, 120 plus customer presenters, 137 technical sessions, 364 customers helping students in their career, and thousands of interactions. Don't forget to tune in to SOLIDWORKS Live for a post-show recap event on February 18th. With so much going on at this year's conference, it'll be good to check out the recap and see what you may have missed. A lot of things have happened since last year's 3D Experience World that none of us expected. But our engineering and design family was still able to come together digitally this year, build our knowledge, strengthen our relationships and connections to one another, even if it was
Hello and welcome to Solidworks Live. We're glad to have you joining us here today for highlights from 3D Experience World 2021. I'd like to take a few moments and thank Tracy for that recap of day 3. And if you thought that was a lot, that was just one day that took place at 3D Experience World 2021. To help talk about some of the highlights and great things that happened over the course of last week, I'd like to welcome onto the show Gian Paolo Bassi. Gian Paolo, welcome.
I enjoyed the recap from Tracy, myself a lot. Yes, it was a great event, and the numbers are not that accurate. Actually, we had more than 37,000 attendees this year, and we believe the number will keep growing because we are making all the sessions available online for everybody, for as many people as possible to enjoy and go learn and take home the important information that we are going to deliver there.
Mm. 37 technical breakout sessions. Won't be able to participate in the conversations of the meetups because they're pre-recorded. So this was pretty cool. Gian Paolo, one of the numbers you just mentioned, they weren't as accurate there. They've actually been updated since then. Can you give us
Jeremy, I am sorry, I was cut off. Sound was cut off. I couldn't hear your question. Do you hear me?
Different than what Tracy had shared with us. Can you give us a recap on that? Because 3D Experience World's always been touted as the largest engineering conference in the world, and the numbers this year are significantly larger.
Yes, Jeremy, I think there is some technical glitch. I could not hear your full question. Anyway, I understand that you want me to comment on the attendance, the virtual event, and yes, of course, we were forced to deliver our amazing event in this unusual way. It was unusual, but at the end there was a silver lining, as we said, which was the much larger ability to include more and more people than in previous editions. Okay, so we learned the lesson, and we got very precious and interesting recommendations from the attendees. All of them acknowledge that the virtual event made it possible for more people to enjoy the content. And this is something that we want to exploit in the future. So basically, a virtual component will be here to stay. However, unanimously, the attendees said, well, you know, the in-presence event is an experience that is unforgettable. So we cannot definitely replace in person with the virtual. And the good news is that we will not. We have announced that we already signed all the contracts. Next year we will be in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a beautiful venue. It's the largest venue that we have contracted with in the last 20 years. So we really wanted to invest even more in the in-presence event. However, we wanted to give everybody a chance to be part of this fantastic celebration. As we say, our community is our most precious asset, and the nurturing and keeping in touch with our community is a continuous exchange that we want to foster for the next foreseeable future. So the event will be in person next year. We are going to make it fun. We are going to make it as large as possible. We want as many people as possible, but there will be an online component, a virtual component, and the ability for as many people as possible to enjoy the content, and especially, you know, the breakout session, to learn and to get in touch with the latest information on the future of SolidWorks.
Well, that's great. I can't wait for 3D Experience World next year in Atlanta, Georgia. I think it's going to be a great event. I wanted to ask you a couple questions. You know, for longtime attendees, I think a lot of people know the name changed last year from SolidWorks World to 3D Experience World. Can you tell us how 3D Experience World has become more than just CAD and why we changed the name?
Yes, Jeremy, this is a question that, of course, we will keep answering for a long time. But I think it is evident after a couple of years where we have named this event, the 3D Experience World, what is the intent of that? Because for many, many years, SolidWorks, the brand, identified itself as SolidWorks CAD, the product. But as everybody knows, the world of design is changing very rapidly. So design is not anymore about modeling shapes. Of course, it is extremely important. And of course, we wanted to keep investing there because there are a lot of innovation in the shape formation, for instance, subdivision, as you know, or the generative approach. But the world of design relies more and more on multiple disciplines. So it has to be integrated with, for instance, electrical, with the electronics, and most importantly, needs to be integrated with simulation. Multi-physics simulation is so important, and we are uniquely positioned in the world with our scalable offer of simulation that is tightly integrated with what SolidWorks can do. So we wanted to invest more and more into this expanding capability, and we needed a new name for this portfolio. You know, it cannot be SolidWorks the brand only focused on SolidWorks CAD. That hence is the name of this expanded portfolio, 3D Experience Works. Importantly, we keep the Works termination to clearly indicate the strong link with the SolidWorks, the brand. But at the end, the aim, the intent is to bring our ecosystem to the future of design that is a complete digital continuity between conception all the way into manufacturing and also marketing of your products. Today, the modern design sees this as a continuum flow. There is no discontinuity. It has to be tightly integrated. And this is exactly the intent of what we want to do with 3D Experience Works, the portfolio. And this is also the message that we want to deliver at the 3D Experience World, the event.
Well, that's great. I really want to encourage people to go back to 3dexperienceworld.com to rewatch any of the content on demand that they could. But one of the things in particular was last week, Tuesday, you made a big announcement about 3D Experience being available for everyone and for makers. Can you give us a little bit of a glimpse here of why people should go back and watch that big announcement?
Yes, Jeremy. We want a very important message that we delivered at the 3D Experience World, but it has been in our DNA forever, is our passion for opening up the possibilities of technology and design to as many people as possible. It's all about lowering the barrier of access. We share with many of our customers the passion to create things that can improve everybody's lives. So, of course, it comes natural, our desire to say, okay, we wanted to share this passion with as many people as possible, and also we want to share our tools with as many people as possible. Okay, we want to lower the barrier of access. We have been doing this for many, many years. We had for many years a student edition of SolidWorks. All students that go to schools that work with us have access to SolidWorks. But again, we are evolving, we are expanding our portfolio, and today there is a huge demand from the marketplace, from the employers, of expertise in the field of cloud. More and more employers, especially as a consequence of what happened in 2020, the pandemic, the sudden need, or really overnight need to work from home and to have access to all the IP, to all the tools and information to make a project possible. This is becoming priority number one: agility, resilience, and there is a demand in the marketplace of employment of people that are skilled in those capabilities, that are able to, for instance, create a collaboration network, that are able to work on the cloud. So we have all these capabilities available in our 3D Experience World portfolio. So it is only natural for us to open up and lower the barriers of access to every single student on Earth. This is the first time the offer for $60 a year. We hope it is something that every student can afford, and give them not only the tools, but also the certification. So the important stamp of approval that they are certified in the design and manufacturing technology in the cloud, in the modern design, manufacturing, and technologies that are in so high demand. Same story for the makers. We see the phenomenon of makers is exploding all over the world. It's not only a personal dedication to this technology, and we like people that have a personal interest, that they don't have an immediate commercial outlet to what they want to do. They want to use technology for personal fabrication. We like that idea. We have been in that field since the beginning of the Fab Lab Foundation, for instance. So we want to give to every maker in the world, for personal use, access to the latest and greatest technology that is our 3D Experience World portfolio. And we believe that this will inspire more and more people, even to maybe start a new company, maybe find a way, thanks to the use of this technology, to solve the many problems that we are facing today. We have seen this happening during the pandemic. A lot of people chiming in with ideas for personal protection, for respirators, for improving devices, and people from all over the world had very good ideas, and not necessarily people with a professional background, but people that had experience, that had good intuition, good ideas. We wanted to equip each and every one of those to make their dreams came true. And we believe that with these two offers, we have drastically lowered the barrier of access.
Well, that's phenomenal news to hear, Gian Paolo. So anybody who wants to learn more about 3D Experience Works for makers and 3D Experience Works for students, I encourage you go back to 3dexperienceworld.com, tune in there. Gian Paolo, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us here on Solidworks Live today, and I can't wait to see what 3D Experience World looks like in 2022 in Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you, Jeremy. It was a pleasure. Stay tuned for what will happen in Georgia.
All right. So next I'd like to bring on to SolidWorks Live. You know, one of the things that always happens at 3D Experience World every year is the SolidWorks User Group Network. And to talk about this, I'd like to bring on the SolidWorks User Group Network Manager, Dan Wagner. Dan, welcome to SolidWorks Live.
Hey, Jeremy, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So it's super good to have you here. I just mentioned, you know, the user group is such a big part of 3D Experience World every year. This year being kind of a unique year, being virtual, how did you handle what is normally the big meetup for the user group?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a very different year, but happy to say that SWUGN kind of rose to the challenge. The user group network rose to the challenge, and we still had a really awesome world event. A lot of fun. I think we actually have a quick highlight reel. Maybe we can take a look at that now.
All right, that sounds good. Look.
In a challenging year, we still onboarded 40 new groups. 40 new groups decided to be user group. Decided to form and become a SolidWorks user group in 2020.
It's just such an honor to be here with the user groups, because this is the people that matter. And like, when I look back and see everything, these are the people that I relate to the most.
The 6th annual SolidWorks largest user group meeting ever, aka SWUGN 6, is going to happen on June 12th and 13th. Why 2 days, you may ask? Well, this year, we're not only going to be the largest user group meeting, but we're also going to be the longest ever. And what better day to run a 24-hour user group meeting marathon than the same day as the 24 hours of Le Mans?
So while some people were wondering what those challenges would be, really others embraced them and really ran with them. And Dave was one of those.
Woo! Yo, I even dug around and found a couple more pictures of you from last year. And this is perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. That's the energy we need, right? In a crazy year, in a year where you got to keep things moving.
So Dan, being a virtual event, you had to overcome some challenges to get so many people involved. It looks like you brought the essence of what makes the SWUGN event at 3D Experience World really happen. Tell us about some of the highlights that took place.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much tradition in the SWUGN Summit, and a lot of things I still wanted to make sure that we did and had as part of the world event. So this took place on Monday afternoon, which kind of helped to kick off the whole week of World. We had a couple really great speakers. Jason Poole came on and gave us a little bit about his experience going from a SolidWorks, long-time SolidWorks desktop user to now really a complete 3D Experience Works user, doing surface modeling, advanced modeling, and then taking it back into desktop and detailing it, which was really cool to see. Colin Walker came on, gave us a cool preview of 3D by Me, a really cool design software that's again on the cutting edge, and this was a preview, and user group leaders love being close to the software and seeing previews, seeing things that are kind of coming down the road a bit. We talked a little bit about how we're going to improve SWUGN this year in 2021, went through some really interesting topics. We had over 100 user group leaders on the line at that time, so it was a great time to do that. And as always, the tradition, going through the awards, looking closely at who were the group leaders and the supporters in 2020 that really kept the network moving forward and really supported us the most.
Yeah, I have to imagine, like, looking at the SolidWorks user group network, they themselves had to deal with this pandemic in new ways over the past year. So tell us a little bit about some of the ways that they overcame these challenges, and then maybe after that we can kind of talk about some of those awards actually.
Yeah, so again, if you think about the year as a whole, SWUGN is certainly built on physical meetings, but so many things had to be transitioned to being a virtual format. Of course, just getting through World, that being one of them. Another one, for example, is the annual SLUGME event, the single largest SolidWorks user group meeting ever. We held that as a completely virtual event in November with over 500 people online viewing the live stream at once. And and again, thinking about those awards, we wanted to recognize the people who helped us adapt to that virtual format, really helped us keep the network moving forward in a year where things were very different.
Yeah, so I mean, when we take a look at these awards, which are a big part of this event, we can see SLUGME's definitely up there. You had mentioned a couple of the users really changing the way they brought user groups. Can you to their attendees? Can you give us a couple examples of that? I actually think the user group leader of the year really kind of changed the way they did things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody knows David Antonavich, he's a really busy engineer for Peloton, and we know Peloton was also pretty busy in 2020. I'm sure they still are. David was part of a team, a group of user group leaders that held 19 continuous weeks of meetings, and in a time where we can't physically be there, keeping everybody connected, keeping the network moving forward. That's really why we wanted to recognize David for 2020. He just did an awesome job with that.
Yeah, and one of the things here that I saw that's unique from years past, it looks like you guys actually recognized new for 2021. You recognized the Reseller of the Year and the Reseller Application Engineer of the Year award. Can you talk just briefly about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many awards here where I want to recognize everybody from the Pittsburgh group to Joe Lance, Joe, we saw him in your opening video, by the way, holding folks back at the door and getting people excited to get in. But to your point, we wanted to not only recognize resellers, but also specific application engineers at those resellers who are so supportive of the network of SWUGN. So Alin Vorgatu is our first recipient of this award, brand new award for this year. And if you look closely at his contributions online and how connected he is with everybody, he has done so much for the network, and it was an overwhelming decision for him, a unanimous decision for him to take that award this year.
Well, Dan, Anything that you're looking at next year for SWUGN that may be different? I know we're constantly evolving. We just talked with GP about how 3D Experience World next year will be changing. Are you guys looking at changing anything, or is it a little too early to ask those questions?
It might be too early. We are certainly hoping and shooting to be there in live and be back together in person. And I hope this year we have physical user group meetings later this year when we can safely do that, right? We're still moving forward with virtual format right now. That's continuing. We're getting excited for that SWUGN 6 event that Cam mentioned in the video. That's this summer. So a lot of exciting things, but yeah, it's still shaping up to be maybe a different year for now.
All right, Dan. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us on SolidWorks Live today. You talked a lot about how people had to look at the current situation and basically say, no, I'm not going to let this get the best of me. We had a guest on last week during general session who took the same approach to dealing with innovation, Duncan Wardle, and I had the opportunity to speak with him last week. Let's take a look. If you didn't get a chance to tune in last week, or you did during general session on Tuesday, Duncan Wardle, former head of innovation and creativity from Disney, joined us to talk about the innovation process. I have him here today on SolidWorks Live. Welcome, Duncan.
Thanks for having me.
So, Duncan, how'd you get to this point today that you're really a champion for innovation and imagination and thinking about things in different ways? What kind of drove you to this path in your life?
Luck. So I started as a barman in the Rose and Crown pub in 1986, and it was luck because I'd actually been looking on the notice board in my university back in Scotland to see if I'd been chosen for the rugby team for the weekend, and there was a picture of Mickey Mouse. You thought, what the hell's he doing here? So started the Rose and Crown, went over to the London office. I became the cappuccino boy and worked there, getting my boss 6 cappuccinos a day. And within about a couple of weeks in, I was asked to be the character coordinator at the world premiere of Who Framed Roger Rabbit in the presence of the Princess of Wales. And so my job was simply to look after Roger. Roger was just going to come down the staircase and greet Princess Diana. But what I didn't do was a contingency plan, which would have told you to measure the width of the steps through which a very tall rabbit with very long feet is going to come down. So Roger comes down the stairs, trips over his own feet, and he's now going hurtling through the air directly towards the head of the Princess of Wales, whereupon he was taken out by 2 royal protection officers, flattened on the ground. There's a very famous picture on Reuters of Roger on the floor like this, 2 heavies on top of him, and a little 21-year-old PR guy in the back going, shit, I'm fired. And so I thought I was fired, and I got a call from the boss saying, this is great publicity. I was like, oh my God, I could make a career out of this. And so for the first 20 years, I did. I got to do the most audacious, outrageous events, stunts, storylines, helped design some theme park attractions, storylines with Pixar. I was like a kid in the candy store. And I think the success for me was having an idea that only had a 50-50 chance of pulling it off, and then having the perseverance to get it done. There's a great expression from Henry Ford, which I've lived my life by. Whether or not you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. And so, for example, when I thought about, we were launching Toy Story, and I thought, well, what if we could make Buzz Lightyear's dream come true? They're like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, he couldn't fly, right? It was a toy. And I said, well, what if we could? And they were like, well, how are you going to do that? I said, I'm going to send him into space. Of course, I hadn't actually asked NASA this question at the particular moment in time. And so I went along to chat with NASA and convinced them, God bless them, to take Buzz into space. And with about 6 months to go, we'd have got a call from the Johnson Space Center. They said, hey, we need 2 Buzz Lightyears here tomorrow. We need identical ones. I was like, why? And they said, well, we're going to take one Buzz apart, sort of molecule by molecule. I was like, because? And they said, well, if there's a vacuum inside his plastic, that could explode in the vacuum of space and actually kill an astronaut. I was like, oh my God. So we had 37 people out trying to find Buzz Lightyear. I thought, don't tell me this deal's going down because Disney can't find him. We were looking in Target, Walmart, Kmart. So we found one, but we needed 2. And then I got a call. This was just before smartphones existed. So I couldn't see who the call was coming in from. And all I heard was, to infinity and beyond. I was like, who is this? And it was my wife. She goes, "Oh, it's me, dear." I said, "Well, where did you get it?" She said, "Well, it's underneath James's bed. It's been collecting dust for 10 years. So I was like, "Oh, send it over." So I wrote James's foot on the bottom of Buzz's foot, just as Andy had done that for Woody. And I said, sent them off to NASA. I said, "Don't destroy this Buzz Lightyear. This is real little boy's Buzz." And so 6 months later, we went off to the launch, and I got quite emotional. I was like, "I'm sending my little boy into space." And then about a year later, I thought, well, how do you top sending Buzz Lightyear into space? Because we were opening another Toy Story. I thought, I'm going to bring him home. Same thing. I hadn't asked NASA at the time. So I picked up the phone. I said, "Hey, when are you bringing Buzz back?" Total silence on the other end of the phone. I said, "Well, no man left behind, right?" He goes, "You've got to be kidding." I said, "Well, you bring everything back, right?" He goes, "No, we don't." I said, "Well, what do you do with everything you take into space?" He says, "Well, just open the hatch and push it out." I was like, "You can't incinerate Buzz Lightyear in the Earth's atmosphere. I'll leak it to the world's press that NASA killed Buzz Lightyear." My tongue was so far in my cheek. Anyway, God bless NASA. They agreed to bring Buzz home, and he landed in California because the weather was bad in Florida. And then if you remember those amazing images of the space shuttle sitting on the back of a 747, getting a piggyback across the country, I have that passenger manifest, right down to who was in which seat. In seat 37B, Buzz Lightyear. And so I think my advice to anybody is, whether or not you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. And so that's how I was doing all the ideas that actually seemed to get done. And so that's when the chairman said, "Hey, you're the guy with the big ideas who actually seems to get them through all our approval processes and gets them executed. So you're going to be in charge of innovation and creativity." To which my response was, "What the hell's that?" And he said, "I don't know. We just need to learn to innovate at scale." I was like, "Okay." And so, as I mentioned in my talk, the first thing we did was survey 5,000 people and just ask them what the barriers were. Number one for everybody, don't have time to think. So guess what, people looking in? Look at your diary tomorrow. Zoom meeting, Zoom meeting, Zoom meeting, Zoom meeting, Zoom meeting. Stop. Weekly report. Stop. Weekly meeting. Stop. You get your best ideas when you're in the shower. So give yourselves time to think. We don't. It's just the biggest single barrier. We got to fight the fires, got to meet our quarterly results. Well, yeah, okay, but then you'll be gone, because Kodak was fighting their fires and meeting quarterly results, and so was Blockbuster Video, and they're no longer with us. And there'll be hundreds of thousands of those in the next few years if you don't. Here's the only blessing of COVID-19, and there aren't really any. Time together with family. And time to think. We've been given time to think. If I hear the word pivot one more time, pivot basically means we're going to move the minimum amount of change possible to help us maintain our quarterly results. Great, well done you. Look, 10 months ago, you used to go to restaurants. Now you use Uber Eats. 10 months ago, you used to go to supermarkets. Now it's Instacart. 10 months ago, you used to go to a gym. Now it's called Peloton. 10 months ago, you used to go to the office. You ain't going back. And so if we continue to just pivot, we will not survive. This is about an opportunity. The reset button that's been planted on our planet, every single one of us has said in the last 12 months, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Well, there was a lot there. You echoed so much sentiment of what you shared last week. I heard you talk about making time for, and last week the word was playfulness. Giving, you talked about it, spending time with family, having time to think. You reiterated the fact, we need to look at the rules in the what if. I love how you just, re-emphasize that fact right there. Everybody for the last 12 months has been looking at the rules and they've been saying, I don't want to do that anymore. What if? So for anybody who did not get the chance to tune in last Tuesday to watch Duncan, I encourage you, go back. Those videos are still available on 3DEXPERIENCEWorld.com. Duncan, one of the things that really jumped out, I was watching the chat live while you were broadcasting, is you mentioned Thomas Edison, but you also made a point about the penny. And this really stood out to a lot of people. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Well, it's this expression. So, when you ask people, where are they, what are they doing when they get their best ideas, you'll hear shower, commuting, jogging, walking. But the only one, I can be in an audience of 3,000 people and I could get them to write it down. And I'll ask them, if anybody said at work, put your hand up. Guess what? Nobody
PC1
idea at work, because it's the same as when you're in the arguments. I discuss, your brain is very busy defending itself. Your brain in the office, Zoom meetings,
remote
Zoom meetings, Zoom meetings,
PC1
and we hear ourselves say,
remote
don't have
PC1
the moment you stop,
remote
just a split second,
PC1
and you walked away from whatever that looked like. You stepped to the shower, you went jogging, you fall asleep, you wake up, you open that door between your conscious and subconscious brain, which gives you access to the other 87% that you're not using during the day. And so Thomas Edison Edison used to practice it at nighttime because he got his best ideas when he was falling asleep. So he literally fell asleep in an armchair, put a penny between his knees, a tin tray on the floor, and as he would, his muscles would relax as he fell asleep, the penny would drop and it would make a noise, and he would wake up and write down whatever he was thinking. And that's where the expression "when the penny drops" comes from. But we don't give ourselves time. When you found Walt Disney out on campus, he was going for a walk. When you found Steve Jobs on the Pixar campus, Steve was going for a walk. They didn't hide themselves away in their offices. They gave themselves time to think, and we don't. So for example, some tips: the first Friday of every month, starting in March, start this March, which is 3 weeks from now, or 2 weeks if you're watching the video a week from now. And I've come back, I'm looking a week younger than I was a week ago. First Friday of every month, give your 9 till 10 a.m. brown bag breakfast, virtual or real, with your team, big or small, and just ask them to come in and talk about something that they've seen in the last 30 days that they thought was innovative or creative. Ideally not from your industry, not why is it good for the business, just listen to their passion. And you'll be amazed at the amount of ideas you can tie back to that presentation. 1 day a quarter for a year, which means you give 361 other days to go kill yourself with Zoom meetings. 1 day a quarter, first Friday of every quarter, no meetings, no emails, no presentations. Give yourselves time to think.
Well, Duncan, this has been super insightful. I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to come back, kind of look back at, what you spoke about last week, and giving people even more opportunity to kind of rethink maybe the way they look at innovation in their lives. I really appreciate you again taking time to come and visit us today.
Well, thank you. I think the biggest takeaway for me is this. You've got to make innovation easy, creativity tangible, and the process fun. If you make it fun, your employees will choose to use it when you're not around. We can't talk culture change. We keep thinking we can. We can't. People will be brave if you give them tools. If you give a soldier a gun, he or she becomes that much braver. So if you want people to take risks, you've got to give them an innovation toolkit that, again, makes innovation easy, creativity tangible, and the process fun. That's how you can change a culture.
All right. Thanks again, Duncan.
Well, thank you very much indeed.
Well, I want to thank Duncan for taking time out to talk with us after general session. One of the next people I want to bring on the show, you've probably seen his face before. It was on the highlights reel this morning. I'd like to bring on Mark Schneider to talk about Model Mania, a 3D Experience World 2021. Mark, welcome to SolidWorks Live.
Hey, Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So, Mark, Model Mania has this really long legacy. Since SolidWorks World 2000 through 3D Experience World this past year, Model Mania has been a fan favorite. Can you tell us a little bit about the success of the event this year? I know, we've seen a lot of things about how it was going to be different. Can you tell us about how it was successful?
Yeah, so obviously we were virtual this year. We couldn't do it like we've done it in the past. As you mentioned, this is our 22nd year of doing this contest. And it's just a simple modeling contest where we give people a drawing and ask them to model a part and maybe make some changes and run a simulation. So pretty simple that way. This year, in the past, when we did this at World, people would sit basically in a booth with a seat of SolidWorks and a computer and a mouse, and then they would, model this part. We couldn't do that this year. So what we did is we did it virtually. We figured out a way to do it virtually, and we had everybody got to see the drawing at the same time. That's not how we do it in the past. Everybody kind of goes in a private booth and does it. But with this year, everybody just flashed the drawing at the same time. The timer started, and away you went. So I think you got the drawing that we used for this year. We can show that what the part looked like. What we've done in the past, we've asked you to model a part and then give you another drawing to make a change to a part and run a simulation. Because we were virtual this year, we were just trying to figure out virtual. We didn't ask you to make a change. It was just one phase where you model the part and run the simulation, and you were all done. This year, I think, Jeremy, the biggest challenge, I always try to put some sort of challenge to make sure that you're building a robust model and maybe you take something away and learn something through the process. I think the biggest the biggest thing to think about for this year's model was feature order. It was very important to understand feature order, and it's an important part of modeling. So I think that's probably the big takeaway for this year. And I think we have our winners. We showed them a little bit earlier. It's like to give a big round of applause again for those folks that were able to completed, because this year we had 440 people that actually participated, actually went through the process. About 4,000 said they were interested and signed up for it, but only 440 actually sat. And there you have our winners for Model Mania 2021. Big round of applause to those folks who were able to complete the challenge.
Well, that's great. That number sounds pretty large compared to years past at this event, participating in Model Mania. Mark, I know one of the things some longtime viewers know of, you have a blog post where you host every single past Model Mania challenge. Where can people go find that? Is there a website or someplace where people can go look at all the past Model Mania challenges?
It's on mysolidworks.com. So go to my.solidworks.com. In the search bar at the top, just type Model Mania. And if you tick the little blogs checkbox on the left, it'll come up. What you'll see today is you'll see 21 years of Model Mania. Starting next week, we'll add this year's model and the solution video, and it'll say 22 years of Model Mania. So those are some of the past parts that we've done for Model Mania, the SolidWorks Challenge.
All right, Mark. Well, I'm really glad that Model Mania was still a mainstay at 3D Experience World 2021. I want to thank you so much for joining us here today. We got a jam-packed schedule. I want to quickly go to our next guest, who also had a Model Mania challenge. Michael Steves had the 3D Experience challenge as part of Model Mania this year. Michael, welcome to SolidWorks Live.
Jeremy, thank you for having me back.
So, we talked in the pre-show prior to 3D Experience World. The 3D Experience Challenge was almost perfect for this type of virtual event. Can you tell us about some of the highlights and some of the participation you had in your event this year?
Yeah, and with 3D Experience World being the biggest world events ever, we definitely had a lot of interest in participating in not only the SolidWorks Challenge, but also the 3D Experience Challenge. I mean, thousands of people raised their hand wanting to participate. And the first step in participating in the challenge was to go to the 3D Experience World 3D Swim community and put your email into a survey. That's one of the benefits of 3D Swim, is having posts, questions, answers, and a lot of engagement in an online community. Polls is one of those. So I leveraged that to engage those first people that wanted to participate. And we got hundreds of people taking that next step. And so once they did that, the week of 3D Experience World, I sent out invitations to a dashboard. And so as participants went in and clicked this, and I think we can take a look at the example here, is they clicked the link, then they were brought to a dedicated dashboard for the challenge. This had instructions on the left. It even had a model for them to drag and drop into the XDesign app in the dashboard. This was the start part. It's a motorcycle. We're building the new 3D Experience chopper. So it had an engine, it had the frame, and from there you had full access to XDesign and Xshape, those 3D modeling apps right in their web browser. And Jeremy, you mentioned it was perfect for virtual environment. Absolutely so. I mean, everyone was granted free access during the week to this software, and they did not have to install anything. It was all in their web browser, and being able to distribute this to hundreds of people around the world, the 3D Experience Challenge was perfect for this virtual event.
So one of the things that was unique about this is not only could anybody from anywhere in the world participate in competing, anybody anywhere in the world could participate in the voting process. Tell us a little bit about how, as these designs came to life, people were able to join in the conversation and choose their favorite winners.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this in the pre-show for 3D Experience World on SolidWorks Live. And I just have to mention, if anybody right now can go to solidworks.com/3dxworld. That'll take you directly to this online community that we're talking about. And that's where you can view all of the posts. So Jeremy, let's take a look at some of the posts that were made by the top contributors last week for the challenge. People went above and beyond, creating some fantastic models. So let me call out some of the winners here, starting with our users and then our resellers. So in third place, we had Timothy again from PAR Systems. In second place, Cole Witt. I think this was one of my favorites of the designs submitted. And back again is the winner for our users, Amy Hamilton from Polk County School Board. On the reseller side, Jose Manuel from DMD, Randy Simmons in second place from CATI, and in first place for the reseller champions, Matthew Kukoski with Trimec. So some really awesome designs. Congratulations to our winners. And these winners were determined by the number of likes in that 3D Swim community. And this is an open community available for everyone to log on and engage with the larger SOLIDWORKS community as a whole. So you can view some of these ideas. And actually, if you go to solidworks.com/3DXWorld, you can access that start model, that chopper frame and engine, download them. And if you have the 3D Creator and 3D Sculptor roles, you can import that model right there. I also have a version of the file available if you have SOLIDWORKS to download and do your modeling in the SOLIDWORKS desktop application. So some great opportunity to show off your creativity and post it back to the 3D Experience world and show off what you've done. The competition is closed now, but you can still show off your creativity and inspire our 3D Experience chopper.
Well, I encourage everybody to go back, take a look at this design challenge. We'll post after the show is done. We'll go back into the comment section below. We'll add those links there for where they can get the SOLIDWORKS model, where they can go participate in here. Michael, this was a big change from last year. Last year they worked on BioAdapt. This year they went to a whole motorcycle. Have you even started thinking about next year yet? Like, because this was a really cool design challenge.
Well, and that's one of the actually pieces of feedback that I got. I mean, we saw some amazing creations this year, and last year was BioAdapt. We had you go through. I detailed out a number of steps of creating a new bracket and assembling that bracket into that BioAdapt foot. From there, it was up to you if you wanted to create the cover and sole of that foot, which many people did. This year, I mean, I set the stage a little bit of, it's up to you what you want to design, one component or multiple components. People really wanted to take the time and show off. So hats off to our top contributors there that made some fantastic designs. I mean, they went for it, designing almost the entire motorcycle in many cases. So next year, I think we'll do something a little bit different, especially with the hybrid environments. We'll definitely leverage the 3D Experience platform to connect everybody around the world to drive the winners next year.
All right, Michael, always great to have you on SOLIDWORKS Live. Looking forward to seeing you again next year at 3D Experience World. A lot of the examples we saw over the course of this challenge, people looked around them for inspiration, whether that was to different industries or to nature itself. I had a chance to meet with keynote speaker Frank Stephenson last week, where this is what he was completely focused on. Let's go ahead and take a look at what Frank had to share about some of the innovative designs that he was tasked with. Next, I'd like to welcome Frank Stephenson, Director of Frank Stephenson Design, a man who has a need for speed. Frank, welcome to SOLIDWORKS Live.
Hello, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on.
So, Frank, for people watching at home, last week you presented at 3D Experience World. You gave a great keynote, kind of talking about some of the evolution of design. That was great. You started out kind of talking about how if you're not in control, you're not going fast enough. Can you talk just a little bit about that really quickly?
Yeah. No risk, no gain, basically. Or I think, a lot of us live in a situation where we're not trying to put ourselves too far out of the comfort zone. And not that life is boring, but it's comfortable, but nothing really ever changes. We don't really move that far forward in our lives, or, you know, it's a nice steady pace. But I think designers, engineers, anybody in the creative profession is always looking to finally break through these limitations that we have. We're creators. We want to do things in a different way. We want to improve the world. We want to innovate, make things better than they were. And so that constant push is what I kind of mean with the speed thing. You know, we're always pushing to be a little bit on the edge kind of thing. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it's thrilling. I mean, anybody who's in the creative profession, probably their biggest thrill is not knowing if they're going to, you know, reach the deadline, or if the product's going to work or anything like that. That's the biggest thrill. So for me, being on the edge like that, or the need for speed, is basically that kind of life in the fast lane approach where things happen. You know, it's a non-static world.
Well, that's great. So during your talk, you talked about 3 really interesting products. I was participating in the live chat that was taking place, and there was a lot of interest in these. One of the first ones you just spoke about unique challenges. This year has been challenging in many unique ways. You tackled a new product called Baby Arc, and you mentioned that you and your engineering team use SolidWorks. Can you tell us a little bit about Baby Arc and how the SolidWorks tools maybe helped facilitate that process?
Yeah, I mean, it was going to work that way anyways from the beginning of the project, because that's the way they work. The engineers are trained in SolidWorks, and it works, you know, no pun intended, but it's the best system out there for getting a solution from design to engineering to where other people can look at it who aren't engineers or designers and can understand what the product's all about. So I just think that it was emphasized or brought out as a superior way of working anyways through the lockdown that we had. None of us could really travel. It happened at the beginning of last year. And I was forced to stay home. Everybody was forced basically to stay home. So we resorted to working directly online. And that goes to show that, you know, this is going to cause a major rethink in the future in terms of the ways that companies work, obviously digitally, but in terms of people working away from their workplace. It shows that the results surprisingly can be even better. We're cutting all that time. You know, meetings take a long time out of our daily schedules, and we have too many of them. I think, you know, when you go online, you work digitally with an engineer, you work closely. The process actually speeds up. It probably is more efficient the way we're working. A lot of companies have realized that, like I said, in the last year, that there is a benefit to working digitally online, and the results are great. I mean, digitally, you never really see the product anyways. It's not a hands-on project or product until you can actually see it, you know, 3D in front of you. But that is basically just a confirmation that you guys have done a good job. Everything works, and digitally it's optimized, and then the final product in front of you. Okay, but it's a process that has proven itself to work very efficiently. So I've you know, designed one of the most I've been designing hypercars and supercars and everything for most of my life, but this project, I have to say, has been a real eye-opener for me in terms of being able to deliver a product I'm extremely happy about, the final product. And also I'm kind of confident that from a design and engineering point of view, it's going to raise the level, the bar in the baby seat market for sure, sending everybody back to the drawing boards when this one comes out. And that's just proof in the pudding that, you know, this system works.
That's great. I can't wait to see this product in stores as a purchasable product. It sounds like it's going to have a big impact. Other things that had a big impact while you were talking, you mentioned something, and it was mentioned fairly briefly, but it really kind of blew up in the chat. You talked about October of this year, you're working on remote control race cars that are going to race on the moon. Can you elaborate on this?
Well, I thought when I first heard about it, I thought whoever was calling me was a wacko, you know, nutcase or something. But it turns out it was a very, very high up, very clever, very well respected person. I won't get into names or things at the moment, but it turns out that I felt like it was a joke until I got deeper into it. It was informed more about it. but there's a lot of technology going on behind the scenes right now. So the world isn't really, the radar isn't, under the radar, as we call it, no pun intended, but it's going to be coming out very soon in the media, what this project is all about. What I can say about it is that a lot of scientists and engineering minds are behind it. It's packaged as an education tool for high school students, basically working on from two different parts of the world on these competitive vehicles, and backed up obviously by these incredible deep thinkers or thinking engineers and scientists who are advising and consulting along the way. They will be going up on SpaceX in October, mid-October, put onto the surface of the moon, and basically an endurance race around a track that's been designed. There are a lot of problems to solve. It's all going on right now. But the knowledge that they will get from this is, if you're into racing, you know that race, or what is it, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. So the best technology for any vehicle comes from the racing world. And so in racing, you break things, you're at the limit, it's an extreme situation for development. And you can't really copy this situation on Earth. You need to be in the environment to see what can go wrong. And a lot of this development will then be reflected in the new lunar rover that will be going up in 2024. And so there's a lot of development going on, pre-development, that they can use. These vehicles, it's not, I'm a designer, and people think, well, why do these cars have to look, or why do these vehicles have to look like they're designed? They don't. They have to be super efficient. But efficiency and design and engineering go hand in hand. A part that works has to look right. And if it looks right, it works right. That kind of symbiotic relationship. So it's a lot of fun. It's incredibly cutting edge technology. We have to worry about weight. We have to worry about material strength. A lot of factors are coming into the equations that you learn when you're doing high-end cars. You wouldn't learn it on an A to B car, but high-end performance vehicles have to, you have to think about every single detail on them. So that's kind of the reason why, I think.
This sounds like an incredible project. I'm going to be keeping my eyes and ears peeled over the course of this year to learn more about this. This is really cool stuff. Finally, you kind of close talking about the warmth of human emotion, talking about, elegant design in a really unique product that's going to solve problems for the future. And that was eVTOL, a flying taxi, but you specifically talked about this product. This is not necessarily a winged flying vehicle. Can you elaborate a little bit more on eVTOL and what that involves?
Yeah, again, that's a little bit of cross-industry innovation or cross-industry collaboration, where this is a whole new segment of mobility. This is not your everyday airplane or your everyday flying car. It's neither of those. It's basically an object that lifts you up, takes you a relatively short distance compared to long distance airliners. So it's more like a city to city hop or an airport to city hop or something like that. But the guys who are doing these programs are not your dyed in the wool aeronautical engineers who've done things the same way forever. These are breakaway sort of thinkers who are thinking, okay, airplanes are airplanes. Why do we have to copy an airplane design when we're doing a whole new type of transportation system or mobility system? And rightfully so, because if you study engineering, aerodynamics and things, planes are efficient, they do the job, but can they be better? Absolutely. And the shape, I'm highly into something called biomimicry, which is, we all need inspiration as creative people. My inspirations always come from nature. So I always try to research what would the solution from nature be? And they wouldn't design airplanes the way we see them today if that was going to be the funny thing is, you look at a bird, they all do the same thing, they all fly, but none of them look the same, right? They all there's a lot of different species and looks to a bird, but they all achieve flying in a different way. So that's kind of saying there are better ways to design airplanes, and not just because they look different. I'm doing it because they fly better. And I've researched quite a bit on what the optimized shape for an airplane would be, and it's actually more, it resembles more a fish than a bird. You know, there's a lot more resistance in the water than there is in the air. Yeah. So if you can start to use the tricks of the sea, basically, incorporate that into your design, you're creating something that is safer and much more efficient in the air than anything that's come before it, because, you know, airplanes have been engineered, they haven't really ever been designed. And it's a great opportunity to bring a left field thinker into the game and look at it from a different angle. And that's what a lot of them are doing. You know, not all of them are going to look the same, like I said, but the ones I've been working on, I've been trying strongly to put this influence of organic design into it. And it's proving itself to be a very smart decision for the companies to go in that direction.
You know, it's really interesting you talk about that. We've all been kind of locked in our homes behind our computer screens, but the viewers are engineers, and this is a perfect opportunity to go out, go for a walk, enjoy the nature around you, and who knows, maybe it will help you with one of the engineering projects you're working on right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's balance, basically. It's very easy for all of us to get burned out, you know, because we're enclosed in one room most of the time now. Can't really get out too much. But for me, it's all about balance. I live and breathe design, and I dream design, and I dream with my eyes open most of the time too. But basically, it's all about balance. I try to get out. I spend a couple hours at least each morning just going on to different sites and trying to learn something new. You never know where it's going to be used in your daily life. But if you can go to bed at night, I think thinking, I know something now that I didn't know this morning. You know, I learned something.
So Frank, this has all been really exciting stuff. Last Wednesday, we got to really kind of look at how, you know, different ways of approaching design, speeding up design, and looking at kind of the world around us as inspiration for design. Frank, I got to ask a question. You know, this has been a huge virtual event. Have you ever had the opportunity to attend a 3D Experience World?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. I've followed them, you know, virtually or digitally all the time, but it would be something amazing to attend with all that, you know, the size of it is amazing. It's the CES, the Consumer Electronics Show of the digital world. So one day I definitely have to make it there when it's allowed, of course, but yeah, all good. Right. And hopefully I can arrive in one of those eVTOL jets.
There you go.
Make it spectacular.
It's a great opportunity to engage with thousands of engineers from all around the world. Frank, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your day today to join us to kind of review what happened last week at 3D Experience World. Yeah, thank you very much, Jeremy, for having me on. And it's always talking with designers and engineers is always one of the highlights of any creative person's not day but life. And really appreciate the fact that I've been invited to give a piece of my insight to my world to you guys. Thanks. Welcome back. That was a great opportunity to talk with Frank last week right after a general session. Really cool. Again, I encourage you, go back to 3dexperienceworld.com and watch all of the on-demand content that's available there. I have one last guest to bring on to the show to talk about something that's been a mainstay for many years at 3D Experience World, and before that, SolidWorks World. John Moderano to talk about the technology preview. John, welcome to SolidWorks Live.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
So, John, the reason I have you on here is last week we got to see the antics of a character by the name of Kevin go through and use the up-and-coming technology from the 3D Experience Works portfolio and SolidWorks Desktop to solve some real challenges. Why don't we go ahead and take a quick look at what that was so people can get an idea, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look.
New technology? Like FaceTube or Insta whatever?
I think my mouse is out of batteries. Does anyone have an extra mouse I could borrow?
You could just hit M for mid-plane, right? Sheesh.
So now the parts are designed and assembled, let's make a quick exploded view. And a quick drawing out of this thing is super easy. Yes, It's SolidWorks connected to the cloud.
Your models, they're such a disease.
You guys are so frustrating. I wish you would just disappear.
Guys, that was corporate. There's a public health emergency, and they're ordering all employees to work from home effective immediately.
I made my team disappear.
This is what I'm talking about, Marv. All the companies have sent their workers home.
That's nice of them. Must be a long weekend.
Dummy, there's nobody here. We'll steal them blind.
Time to mouse up. Yeah, let's get in. I don't see any files in here.
Look, there's something in this folder. Hang on.
Hey, dummies, you're too late. All the data's already stored in the cloud. Hey, dummies, you're too late. All the data's already stored in the cloud.
Listen, I don't care about this cloud. We're coming back tomorrow night. The kid will go home. The building will be empty. We'll take everything.
And digital stickies to get organized. I can turn action notes into collaborative tasks, giving me an updated to-do list. Yeah, baby.
Great. We'll design up some props to make it look like there's a design review meeting. Dim the lights, turn on a projector, and Megan can give a remote demo.
Harry, people are still working.
This can't be. Let me see.
Oh, look at that. X mold.
Mold? No, it's no good. It ruined my favorite provolone.
No, Harry, mold design. It's how they make plastic tooling. In X shape, all your subs D stay visible and can be referenced while you're editing another sub D.
Blah, blah, blah. All I heard was sub. I'll take a steak and cheese extra onion. Wait a minute. That office up there. That guy keeps going back and forth, back and forth.
That explains why there's no car in the parking lot.
No, something is not right. There's no way anyone could be this productive. Hey, kid, we're on to you. Let's go, Marv. We're coming back tomorrow.
Lastly, using SolidWorks Motion, it looks like this will work. Crushed it. Take that, CAD bandits.
Parking validated. On this week's episode of When Office Machines Attack. I call this one the Barista Barrage. Oh, you'd like a double.
See? This is another one of the kids' traps.
Best of all, it's got two settings, friend and foe.
So, John, tell us what all those antics were about. What was the ultimate goal? Obviously, it was something humorous we just saw, but tell us like what the ultimate goal of this skit at 3D Experience World is about.
Yeah, so we like to show all the new SolidWorks and 3D Experience Works functionality in a fun way. Oftentimes, it's just a pre-existing movie. We did we did Star Wars in the past, but this year, we decided to do Home Alone, if you're familiar with that movie. So it's a classic, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So throughout this whole skit or these episodes, and one of these took place each day, new capabilities that are available, that will be available to our customers, or sorry, new technology we're working on. I should put that disclaimer in there. New technology we're working on was also shown to our customers to get them excited about some of the new capabilities that are coming to them. So if you haven't had a chance, if you're watching at home and you don't know what this is, again, I encourage you, go back to 3DEXPERIENCEWorld.com and you can watch these on-demand sessions. It's labeled "Don't Miss This Demo." Now, John, one of the things that we've always done in the past is we bring a bunch of people together, people fly in kind of from around the country. This year was obviously very different. Can you talk about both some of the challenges that you faced and how you overcame those creating this content for 3D Experience World?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the big concern, right? How do we do this and make it safe for everyone involved? And that was the highest priority, I would have to say. So, like you said, Jeremy, usually we have people fly in. That didn't happen this year. Then, in addition, we did a lot of shots that were, tight and close up, where people weren't in, a bunch of people stuffed in the same room. So we were very cognizant, always obviously wearing masks and keeping our distance from each other, and use some movie magic to, make it look like we're all in close proximity. So, but it worked out, and I felt safe the entire time while filming.
That's great. This was also, a lot of props to the company that helps us with this show. They came in on a Saturday to make this all happen, so it didn't disrupt anybody who might be in the office. But I got to ask you, so you're relatively new to the team. You were front and center through this whole thing. What was that experience like?
Yeah, as one of the newer guys, I'm going on my second year here. It was just a total honor to not only be included in the skit, but to be cast as the main role. I had so many people come up to me and say, I've wanted to be in the skit for so long now. And these are people that have worked for the company for a decade now and haven't gotten the chance. The stars didn't really align for them. And I just feel really honored to, again, not only be cast a part, but be cast the main role as Kevin. So it was super awesome. And it was so much fun.
So, John, I want to ask you, the fundamental goal of this humorous presentation is to show off some really cool new technology or capabilities that users may or may not see in the next year. What was your favorite feature that you saw?
Absolutely, yeah. This one, hands down, has to be the search command on the shortcut toolbar. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So you just search the command you want, and then the best part, you can just drag and drop it in there. So if you need to use it again, that just keeps your attention in the graphics area and really saves a ton of time. So that one has to be my favorite. What about you, Jeremy?
Well, my favorite feature has to do more with kind of a little workflow thing. When you're working with dimensions, oftentimes diameters and radius values, you'll run into cases where you want to change it. Well, that used to be on a right mouse click menu. Now it's right on that quick pop-up menu. If I select a linear, radial, or diameter dimension, I can quickly toggle between these three different states without having to right click and dive deep down into a menu. I think this is one of those little delighters that people are going to be like, if they were to go back a release, they'd be like, I can't believe I ever worked without something so simple like that. So John,
Absolutely.
We should mention there's a lot of capabilities that are shown across all 3 days. I encourage everybody, go watch them all. The first day, we talk about all the amazing cloud technology tools that we have available. And the next day, we look at a lot of CAD-specific tools that are also available on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And then day 3 had a strong focus on SolidWorks Desktop in 2022. So I encourage everybody to watch all of those. John, before we start to wrap up, I'm going to talk about a couple of the live segments we have coming up. One, I didn't actually put a call out for it, but can you tell people about one of the new live segments that you and Gian are doing on the YouTube channel that people can tune into?
Yeah, so our next session is actually March 4th, and this is Exploring 3DEXPERIENCE Works. It is a monthly webinar series where we cover all of the features or we cover basically workflow. So it's not exactly live design, a little bit different than live design in the fact that we sometimes utilize basically just a storytelling timeline to go through some workflows and kind of just uncover how these products can be used.
Well, that's great. I can't wait to see that. We have some other pieces coming up here as well. Next week, we are re-kicking off SolidWorks Live Design starting on Thursday, February 25th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, exclusively on YouTube. You can tune in, join in the conversation, get involved with the design process with the people who are going to be presenting really cool designs and tips and tricks on YouTube. After that, actually after they're exploring 3D Experience Works on March 18th, we're going to be back here at SolidWorks Live looking at smart machining for SolidWorks. We're going to be looking at some really cool CAM tools and how they integrate with SolidWorks. I know we went a little long, so I just want to quickly thank all of our guests who joined us here today. I know we had a lot of content to cover, and I appreciate all of you who have stayed tuned in the entire time. 3D Experience World 2021 was a massive event with over 37,000 people in attendance, and we can't wait to see you all again next year in Atlanta, Georgia at 3D Experience World 2022.